Good morning, Desmond. Here's your machine, the Brevill Barista Express BES870 in brushed stainless steel. As you saw in the photos, the machine is in fairly good condition. I've just finished doing the service on it, so full service, clean, everything, testing all the features. And now it's ready to make a coffee. So I'm just going to show you how I make my coffee on the Barista Express, and I'll try to give you some tips and tricks to get better coffee. So when you first turn it on, it'll probably take about a minute to reach temperature, and you'll know it's up to temperature when the buttons come on. It's been on for a few minutes now, so it's ready to go. If you want the best coffee and don't want to get sort of a colder espresso, you can let the machine warm up. So you can either warm it up by letting it stay on for 10 or 20 minutes. In that time, it'll heat up the portafilter, the top tray for your cups if you want to put your cups on top as well, and the internal components. So like when the lights go on, the boiler is up to temperature, but you also want the portafilter and the cups to be hot as well. If you don't want to wait 10 or 20 minutes, you can run a blank shot. A blank shot is just a shot of hot water through the portafilter into the cup so that you warm things up in one go. So let's do the double. Fairly simple. This will also clean any dirt or oil, so coffee grounds or oil that are in the shower screen. So I like to do it every time, even on my personal machine. Perfect. That's 100 grams of water, which is the factory program for this. So from factory, they will come with 100 grams on the double and 60 grams on the single, and that's water, not coffee. So if you want to program these buttons, you can. Just grind your coffee, tamp it, and then do the programming cycle. I will show you how to do that shortly. So ideally you want to keep the hot water in the cup. Just a bit of hot water maybe. So that it stays hot. I accidentally put it down into the tray. Anyway, that's not a problem. Next, you want to take a tissue or a towel and just dry your portafilter. You want it to be fully dry before grinding the coffee into it. So now I'm using the double basket. Your machine comes with all 4 baskets, so 2 singles, 2 doubles. So this is the single wall double basket. It's the one you want to use most of the time. The dual wall variety, they're also included. Those ones are for pre-ground coffee. So if you're finding difficulty getting pressure from pre-ground coffee, use the dual wall baskets because they will give you better pressure, but they won't taste as good as the single wall. This double takes about 18 grams of ground coffee, so I'm gonna aim for 18 grams. I've got some beans here, the Aldi brand. I like the Aldi brand just because I find it's good for the money. I'll keep it on single, and I'll keep this on around 12 o'clock. You can put it on double and grind the full amount. Personally, sometimes I like to put it on single just to prevent any sort of mess or spill. So this is how I do it. Let's see how much we get. So I'm shooting my scale. We got 8 grams from that single. So let's put it on 1 o'clock. Let's see if the 1 o'clock gives us a bit more coffee. So I'm just going to top it up. If you want to top it up, you just hold the button. Just a bit more. Okay, so that's 9 grams. So once I've done my first dose, or my first single, I'll just press it down like this with the temper so that the next batch falls on this and doesn't spill. If you don't press it down, it might spill because obviously the coffee just is really fluffy and it comes all the way up. So I press it down just to make it a bit lower. 1 o'clock position. So this is at 1 o'clock. Let's see how much. not too bad. So we got 8.6 grams. So I might keep it there. So that's 17.5 grams. That's okay. It's not too bad. So 1 o'clock position gives me 8.5, approximately 8.5 grams of coffee. 12 o'clock gives me 8. So by logic, if I put it on 2 o'clock, it'll give me 9. I'm just going to keep it there because it'll all depend on what beans you're using. It'll also depend on what grind size you have. So at the moment with these beans, I'm using grind size number 5. I have recalibrated the grinder for you. So there's an internal mechanism that you use to recalibrate. I've done that. So I would recommend using these settings and see if that gives you good or bad coffees. But it may change depending on your beans. Just make sure to get good beans. If you get really cheap beans from like Coles, like the Coles brand or the Victoria brand, you might not get the best coffee in the world. So the best approach is to just get freshly roasted beans from your roaster, the local roaster around you. Or as a compromise, maybe Lavazza or Aldi. So I'm using Aldi just because I find they usually have fresher than most in terms of the beans that they're using in the supermarkets. Most supermarket beans are not fresh, but the Aldi ones are fresher than average. Okay, so that's 17.5 grams. If you don't have a scale, or if you're in a hurry and you don't want to use the scale to measure the output, just grind enough coffee such that when you tamp it down, nice and flat, this silver part of the tamper disappears. So this is the depth that the tamper goes to if you have the correct amount of coffee. So as you see, it's about this deep. So very simple. You also have, I think, the razor tool included. I don't like to use that just because it's a bit wasteful. The razor tool is a tool that is for beginners. So the idea with the razor tool, you put more coffee than you need and then press it down and then scrape off the excess. I don't like to use it just because it disrupts the coffee surface and it also wastes a bit of coffee. So now that we have 17.5 grams, make sure you clean the edges all around, then lock it in. So about halfway, maybe a bit to the right. If you don't tighten the handle tight enough, it might leak from around the seal, so just push it a bit to the right until it's nice and firm. Now let's actually make the espresso. So I'm just going to make an espresso, not a latte, because I don't have lattes after 12 o'clock. Okay, so reset my scale. Now I'm going to reset the double shot button for you. So for the pressure gauge, aim for about 11 o'clock-ish, 11 to 12 o'clock. If it's much lower than 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock, you probably will be getting a very quick shot and it might be a bit too sour. If you get very, very high pressure, like let's say 1 or 2 o'clock, then that's too high of a pressure, so the coffee will come out really slowly. You control the speed of the coffee, or let's say you control the pressure by the grind size. So I have fresh beans, yes. I have 18 grams, approximately 18 grams into the basket, yes. And I'm pressing and tamping correctly. If you do all these things consistently, then the only thing that changes the pressure or the speed of the coffee is the grind size. So if you make it finer, smaller particles, the water will be slower to go through. You'll get much higher pressure. If you increase the grind size a lot, you'll notice the pressure will go down and the speed go down. So think of the grind size almost like the speed. So smaller number, smaller coffee, slower coffee as well. At the moment it's at number 5. Hopefully it should be in the correct range. So let's see. I will press the program button to start programming the buttons. So you can choose a single or double. I'm going to do the double. And I'm also going to time it just for reference. So hopefully we can get the correct amount of coffee in the correct amount of time. So not to make this too complicated, but I'm going to aim for about half of this cup in about 20 to 30 seconds. So half of this cup is about 35 grams, which is, if you remember, double of the input. So the input was 17.5 or 18. We want to double that in terms of liquid espresso. So that's a 2-to-1 ratio. So watch the pressure gauge slowly going up. So about 1 o'clock pressure, slightly too high, but that's okay. I'm gonna stop it right there. That's 20 seconds. So in the 20 seconds we got, how much is this? We got 38 grams, not bad at all. So about a 2-to-1 ratio in 20 seconds. I think this will be a very good shot. In terms of the taste, as you saw, it was a nice symmetrical, smooth flow. The pressure was a bit too high, but I guess for like most people, you won't even notice if it's too high or too low. Just make sure it's not all the way to 2 o'clock or not all the way to like 9 o'clock. So it has to be sort of in the gray zone to be a good coffee. Anything in the gray zone will be a good coffee, I would say. If you notice the coffee just coming out really quickly in like 5 to 10 seconds and just gushing out of the spout, that's too quick. So you want to slow it down by using a finer grain size. On the other hand, if the coffee is not coming out at all, or maybe like very slow drips, black slow drips out of the portafilter, then that's very slow. You want to increase the grind size to make it quicker. So hopefully I haven't made this too complicated. In 20 seconds we got this much. So if you use these settings, you probably will be getting a really good cup of coffee with this programming. So this will give you about 38 grams every time you use the machine. Yeah, so I think that's it in terms of the espresso. You can add milk to this and make it into a latte, or enjoy it as is. Yeah, that's very nice. So, what's next? Obviously you want to clean the machine, so take your portafilter, knock it into a knock box. It's very easy to knock off the coffee with this type of basket, the single wall baskets. It just falls off, you don't have to knock it really hard. With the dual wall baskets, it's actually really hard to knock off, so you have to bang it really hard. Next, you want to rinse. So just press the single or double button to rinse. Make sure you get rid of the coffee grounds on the shower screen and on the portafilter. Occasionally I like to also grab a tissue and wipe the shower screen and the group seal, just to make sure you don't burn yourself. But yeah, I like to do this step just to prolong the life of my machine and the group head seal. Dry the portafilter, dry the group head seal and the shower screen, and you can just leave it sort of partially locked, not all the way. We don't want to put pressure on the portafilter, sorry, on the group head seal, so just like that. And yeah, now the machine is ready to make another coffee if you want, or you can store it like this overnight and repeat in the next morning. Obviously the machine has a steamer and a hot water tap, so everything works fine as you would expect. This will give you nice clean hot water from the boiler. You don't have to worry about coffee grounds coming out of here because it's not connected to the group head, of course. So you can use this to make a long black Americano coffee, or you can just use it to warm up your cup, etc., or tea bags, etc. The steamer, you turn the dial closer to you to turn on the steamer, turn it away from you to use the hot water tap. So turn it towards you for steam. Give it about 10 or 15 seconds, it'll start steaming, just giving the boiler time to heat up. Once you hear the pumping gauge, or tap tap, that's when it's, up to pressure, I would say. So now, you see the pressure ramp up. There we go, that's full pressure. Now turn it off. When you turn it off, it will cool down, so you'll hear the machine autofill the boiler, or like cool it down. And once the lights are on, it's ready to go. So now it's ready to make another coffee, which is very, very convenient. On all the machines, you have to manually cool down the boiler. Right, so that's the Barista Express. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. If you have any questions or concerns, please don't hesitate in messaging me, and I look forward to seeing you. Thanks.